Like, hue is good, but pure is better. Honestly, if I'm gonna buy cheap paint, I'm gonna buy the ones that are the actual material and is not a hue of the color. T. Hey, my name's Adia. Welcome back to another video. And oh, literally, I went to art school, so you guys will have to. So I'm going in debt for you, babes. Like, I didn't come to play around. So if you're watching this video, obviously you're watching. Does it really matter what type of acrylic paint you get? The answer to that question is depends on what you're doing. Honestly, it's kind of worth it to spend money on it, but I'll go over the different brands I have, and well, honestly, I have the cheapest to some of the most expensive paints. So, like, wait, I didn't get a thumbnail. Like, okay, so I also have Walmart. Okay, so this is Adia from the editing studio. Okay, so I have a better definition of what exactly a hue is after, some more classes. So basically, a hue is anything kind of but the color made from the actual pigment. So, for example, you might get a color like burnt sienna, but it's a mixture of different colors to make that color instead of like the actual product that makes burnt sienna, such as like dirt or something. So that would be like a good example of that. So you have the colors to make green, right? You have yellow and blue, and then you buy a pigment with the color yellow and blue already mixed in there for you. It's kind of like a waste of your money when you could have actually bought the actual pigment of the color instead of a hue of the color. So yeah, like cheaping. Okay, cheaping out, I guess. So I would say this brand right here is the cheapest brand. And honestly, I mean, if you're first starting out, it's not the best paint, but I've definitely made some really really cool art with it. I would also say this brand typically, like, when you when you paint with it, it like dries a different color. I also think this is not like, well, one thing about this paint, it's not actually made with like the actual pigments, even though it doesn't necessarily say hue. And there's a difference between paint that says like the actual color compared to if it's a hue, which I learned I learned in my art class, that I didn't know. So like T. Also, which is why hues cost less than like paint that has the actual pigment, such as like cadmium red. So for example, let me see if I have one that's pure and one that's like a hue. I have one that's a hue and I didn't know it was hue until I looked. Actually, I've used the hell out of this paint. By the way, Winsor Newton is a pretty good brand. It's like something, I would say, like, I guess you can consider, well, this technically is, well, they have student grade Winsor Newton. Um this is like my typical paint that I usually buy. Yeah, I use the hell out of it. This is a typical paint that I usually get, just because like I really like the consistency and how it like looks on the canvas. Um, and I would say this is kind of like in the middle, I would say, for pricing. Um, these tubes are probably around maybe $10 to $15 for the bigger tubes, I would say. Um, And then also, this is another brand. This is like, okay, so if you want to cheap out, this is like way better than like the Walmart brand that obviously I just showed. So, but I would say that I don't know if this brand has pigments that, well, I would assume they have pigments that like are the real thing, and some are that are hues. For example, you see how this does not say that it's like a hue. So this is like, it was actually made with the actual pigment, compared to this, how it says cadmium red, medium hue, which means it wasn't actually made with like cadmium. It was made with some type of basically something else that's similar to the color, but it isn't actually the color, which now that I'm looking at it, it's a little upsetting that I bought a freaking hue. But it is what it is. Also, I would say some of the brand, well, this is my favorite brand, but this brand's expensive. It's gonna run your pockets. Like, I think I got this in a pack, so like the pack was probably like $75. It had like basically primary colors. Honestly, that's what I do. I get like most of my expensive paint in primary colors, and then other colors I kind of get them cheaper. But this is, yeah, this brand is definitely like really expensive, like especially the bigger tubes that I was showing you, like this size. Some of the colors can run up to like, I think the minimum was like 20, but I've seen some colors that are like $60-$70 a tube, and honestly it just depends on like how precious the material is, which now that I'm looking at it, it makes sense, because if like a paint is super expensive, it's probably because it's made from like a precious material that's like harder to get than like other materials. And then also, honestly, you can't go wrong with this brand. I think I have some more. This is basically like student grade paint, and honestly, I have no like complaints. I would say it's very like, it's a fairly cheap paint. Well, I would say it's more expensive than this one, but slightly cheaper than Winslow Newton, and it's like a heavy body paint, which is like super nice, and it also, when it dries beautifully. So I would say like when it dries, the colors are pretty consistent. So if I had to pick what like what I would recommend for people who are starting off, honestly, I would get like the student grade paint, this paint. And honestly, if you're gonna buy paint, don't buy any paint that says hue. Like, you might as well just like, if you're going to cheap out a little bit, like at least get the stuff that has the real pigment. Like, for example, this is like the actual pigment, even though it's a cheaper brand. It's like burnt sienna. It doesn't say it's a hue, but the reason why this is cheaper than like golden, so this paint particularly is a heavy body paint, and this paint is like fairly watered down, so you're going to use more of it than like this one. So it's like kind of like the difference. So this will honestly will go way further than this, and I'm pretty heavy handed, so like, yeah. I also have Artist Loft. So Artist Loft is basically the Michaels brand, and honestly, Artist Loft is very similar to this brand. There's not very much of like a difference. I would say it isn't really much of like even like a price difference, but yeah, basically they're just more like liquidy, so you're going to end up using more, which honestly, they're not bad paints. I would just like, I think for the best experience, student grade, or if you don't mind spending a little more, Winslow Newton. Honestly, you can like, yeah, this is just like that brand. Oh my gosh, I'm like so upset that I actually have hues, and I didn't know it was a difference like that. So I guess you guys just learned information that I had to pay for free. You're welcome. You're welcome. But yeah, even like certain brands, like I have this cadmium yellow, and I believe most brands have the option for like the regular color and hues. I don't know about golden. None of my golden paint is hues, but even some of my Winslow Newton paint that I'm looking at now, it's like, it's a hue, which is very upsetting. Like, I don't know if you guys can see it, Like it says cadmium yellow medium hue, which means it isn't actually made of that material. They just found some type of cheaper products that makes a similar color. Which, the thing about hues and certain pigments is like, so with certain pigments, it'll dry a certain way, and also if you make an amazing painting, you want that painting to last. And if you're using cheap paint, then like your painting is probably gonna deteriorate. But also there's some colors such as like sap green, the color doesn't stay the same color because of like it's made of like I think unripe fruit or something like that. So basically the color changes over time, but it's a really pretty color. But like for example, this, it doesn't say that it's a hue, so I would just make sure when you are going and grabbing paint that it doesn't say hue. Anyway, I think I'll do an overview of all the paint brands that I have and basically my rating of them. So, cheapest paint. These are my cheapest paint. You'll find them at Walmart. You can also find them at Michael's. As far as rating, I give these a 3. A 3. I mean, I've made some cool paintings, but honestly, they're not going to hold up. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of upsetting. But yeah, I just know they're not going to hold up over time. And the pigment changes. So once it dries, and yeah. So, and I think it's interesting that like some of them say certain colors. Even this one says cobalt hue. So like I don't think any of these colors are the actual pigment, but you know, I don't know. I would say for these would be the second cheapest. So you can find both of these at Michael's. I honestly think this one is slightly better, but maybe, I don't know. They don't really have too much of a difference. I think they just probably have a little bit better colors that are available. And honestly, it's always good to get a primary blue. As you can see, it's fairly empty. I don't know if you can actually see, but it's fairly empty. I would say, honestly, these two brands are very similar in pricing, but I don't know which one is a little less expensive. Or, yeah, I think it's this. So, this is honestly what I would recommend people that are starting out. Basically, it's a heavy body paint. It'll last you a while, and as you can see, these aren't like hues, so these are just some of the primary colors that I bought and like mixed with. I have nothing bad to say about this paint. I would rank this paint like, oh my gosh, I forgot to rank the other paints. Okay, this paint I would rank maybe a 5. Yeah, a 5. I use a lot of it. I'm very heavy-handed, so I use a lot of it. But I would say like the colors come out nice. It's very smooth. Although I do realize with this brand I had to do multiple. I had to cover the section multiple times because it's like super thin and watery. So that's why I rated it 5. It's not bad. It's not good. It gets the job done. That's what this paint does. It gets the job done. Now back to the student grade. So basically, honestly, it's I would say it's very similar to Golden. Not as, in my opinion, not as good. Just slightly not as good. But like, if you want something that's like kind of at like the highest, some of my most expensive paint, I would say this would probably be the closest to it, just because it's heavy body, it's nice. When I was painting with it, I didn't have to do multiple coats, and as you can see, I still have like fairly a lot of paint and in these, and I just, like, as I said, I'm heavy-handed. I use this in a class, so, and honestly, I use this on some of my paintings. I wish I could like show you guys some of the paintings that some of the stuff that I use for the paintings, but I can't remember because I usually mix paint. Anyway, that's another thing. T. I would say next we have Winsler Newton. And these are, oh my gosh, they're like so. By the way, these two colors, wonderful. They work magic. I would say, I would definitely rank these like a 7. Yeah, definitely like a 7. Ooh, did I rank the other ones? Those are also a 7 though. The student green might be like an 8 because I like heavy body paints. Like I love this paint, but I think I like heavy bodies a little bit more. These aren't necessarily heavy body, but they have tons of like really pretty colors. And honestly, this has been kind of like my staple since I started, so I guess I might have a little bit of brand loyalty. Yeah. And also, depending on what series it is, will depend on how expensive it is. And I don't necessarily know what, like, the series stands for. I guess possibly. I think it's just, like, kind of like a listing of how expensive it is. Because, like, if the series is the same, it'll probably be the same price. Yeah, no, it'll be the same price if the series is the same. So if it's, like. So, for example, these two are the same price. These two are the same price because of the same series. Now these, I bought, these are the most expensive paints that I have, and so I have, the regular heavy body golden, and I also have a pack of slow drying golden. I believe this was more expensive than this, but I bought them in a pack because, it was a sale on Michaels. So I will definitely like list out some pricing for these. Obviously this is mixed with some type of like material to make it dry slower. I wouldn't say that it dries as slow as oil. Actually, it doesn't dry as slow as oil, like at all. I would just say like when you put it on the canvas, you can leave it and it'll be okay. Or like, and it won't dry in like 5 seconds. I have used some of these, but I haven't used it a ton. I actually don't know why I haven't used it a ton. So, if you did want to get, like, a slow drying acrylic, this is, like, some of the colors that I have. Oh my gosh, this is also a hue. I'm so upset. But, like, you see how... So, guys, maybe learn from me. Don't buy stuff in packs. See, this is, like, the actual, like, color. What else? Sap green hue. Honestly, this is upsetting. Basically, okay, so remember when I said sap green changes, like, over time? I don't think necessarily this would change because, it's not the actual material that's used to make sap green, and it's a hue, so, maybe that's why I don't use it. And then Indian yellow. This is also a hue. Oh my gosh, it's a series 4, so. Honestly, when I bought the oil paint of it, it was pretty expensive, I'm not even gonna lie. And then I have, like, Mars Black Wool. This is not slow drying, but. Anyway, so thank you guys for watching thank you guys for watching my video. If you want me to go over I guess like the oil painting brands, what I think, how I rate them, how much they hurt my pocket, please leave a comment below and I'll make a video about that too. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Bye.